Today I want to show you how you can make your own foraging mat at home for your dog. A foraging mat is this fun little snuffly mat where you can hide dog treats or your dog's meal for them to snuffle and hunt for. This is great for a rainy day, this is great for daily enrichment, Pip, and you can use it for training purposes. For example, teaching your dog how to recall off of distractions. Pip, touch! Good girl, that was really nice. All right, I'll go ahead and leave her to snuffle up these last little bits here. Perfect. To make your own at home, you're going to need just a couple of supplies. First, a trip to the hardware store, farm supply store, or any of the big box home improvement stores. And you're going to buy some rubber matting. Now, depending on the store, this might be in the garden section, this might be where you find other rubber mats, or even where they sell horse stall matting. So depending on the stores, this might be called different things. This particular mat is called an anti-fatigue mat when I got it at either Lowe's or Home Depot. Now, as far as cutting it to size, you can cut however large or small you want your snuffle mat or foraging mat to be. I find that for my purposes, a 12 by 12 works really well, but sometimes I will double it as well. For Loki, lie down. Pip, go to bed. Lie down. For my purposes, again, a 12 by 12 works really well, but sometimes I will double it. Now, the next thing you're going to want is fabric. If you happen to have fleece from another project, that's going to work perfect. You can also cut up an old blanket. For my purposes, since I tend to make several toys at once, I buy a couple of yards of whatever fleece happens to be on clearance at the time. And then I'm going to cut it. You can cut it into little strips of anywhere between 2 to 4 inches by about 8 to 10 inches. It can be a little bit bigger, it can be a little bit smaller, but I find that works really well. You don't have to have each piece be identical. In fact, having some variety is going to add a little bit more depth to the mat. Then you're going to take your rubber mat at whatever dimensions that you've decided work for you, and you're simply going to take one end, push it through the back into a hole, and you're going to do the same thing with the other end, like so. Okay. The next thing you're going to do is take your pieces and simply knot it. It doesn't need to be a double knot. In fact, a single nice tight knot works really, really well. And then you continue to do that. And give it a little knot. Perfect. You'll find once you're all done that your row is going to look something like that, okay, from the front. And once you've completed a row, you just keep going, and from there you can decide whether you want to go across as well. If you decide to go across, it's going to look a little something like this when you're all done. You'll notice that there are some spots that I didn't put fabric, and that's perfectly fine. My dogs haven't criticized me yet if it's not absolutely perfect. And I find that when I'm cutting up pieces, anywhere between 80 and about 112 little bits of fabric for the average 12 by 12 works really well. And if you want a fluffier mat, go for it. But again, I haven't found any dog to criticize me if it's not perfectly fluffy. The last couple of tips is about your fabric. Make sure if you're getting fabric from the store that you give it a wash before you start cutting it up. Otherwise, you're going to have bits of fuzzies everywhere, and that gets a little annoying. Also, your blanket or your fabric is going to have some elasticity depending on how you cut it. So you'll find that there's going to be a direction that stretches really, really well, and there's going to be a direction that doesn't stretch at all. For my purposes, I don't want any give or any stretch to my material. I find that if I'm not careful about which direction I cut, when I'm knotting it, it gets really thin, and I don't want thin little scraggly pieces. I want a really fluffy mat for my dogs. And that's it. That's how you make a foraging mat for your dogs. So I hope you and your dog have a lot of fun with this. All done.